Surrey's heathlands have been formed over thousands of years, but it's not a natural process. It's human activity that's caused these areas to be formed, and if we don't continue to maintain them, we'll lose them back to the trees.
That's not to say that trees aren't important. Of course they are. But for thousands of years, we've cleared these areas of land for grazing and agriculture. And in that time, a range of wildlife and plants have made these special places their home.
The problem is, when we stopped farming these areas in more modern times, the scrub and trees started to return. In the last episode, we talked about the issues on Horsell Common in the last century. Well, that continues to this day, and is replicated across all the heathlands in Surrey and beyond.
So organisations like the Surrey Wildlife Trust and the Horsell Common Preservation Society work hard to keep areas like this clear of scrub and trees, but they can't do it on their own, and that's where these guys come in.
In this episode, we're going to look at why conservation grazing is important and the animals that are used to do this. Spoiler, it's not just cows that are ecosystem engineers. Surrey Wildlife Trust are also looking at bringing back beavers to the county.
And that's all to come on this episode, along with what to look out for on a heathland near you right now. In the meantime, I'm Phil, this is Duncan, and this is Surrey Uncommon. Welcome to Surrey Uncommon. In this episode, we're here on Horsell Common looking at why grazing animals are so important to the upkeep of our heathlands. Conservation grazing mimics the action of the keystone species that would have been here prior to human settlement. Before then, we would have had creatures like the aurochs, which was one of the largest animals in the Holocene, which went extinct in Europe in the 1600s, but was extinct in the UK well before then. We would also have had wild horses called the tarpan, straight-tusked elephants, rhinos, woolly mammoths, along with antelope, deer, elk, reindeer, and of course, creatures like the beaver. Grazing animals keep the heathland dynamic. Their activity opens up the areas of scrub, lets in the light and allows plants to grow. They also wallow, stomp, poo and die, and all of those things create opportunities for wildlife. You can almost imagine this area looking like the African savanna, with all of those grazing animals in massive herds, and then also all the predators that would come with them, like cave lions and brown bears and hyenas, all living and dying right here where we are now.
Today, we don't have big wild herbivores. The woolly mammoth went extinct in the UK 87,000 years ago, the tarpan around 12,000 years ago, and the aurochs around 3,000 years ago, with wild boar and beavers persisting until the 15th and 16th centuries. Of course, we now have domesticated versions of many of these animals, but these are usually kept on farms, so widespread grazing activity on land like Horsell and Horsell Common has all but ceased.
And that's where conservation grazing comes in. To take the place of the aurochs, we've got Highland cattle, or the belted Galloways. And to take the place of the tarpan, we've got ponies like the Exmoor, Dartmoor, or Shetland. And to take the place of the wild boar, we've got old breed pigs. And these animals come into areas like this, and they do all the things that you'd expect of them. They open up the areas, they break the trees, they live, and they poo. And that's really important to keeping the wildlife here that's really unique to these places. And obviously with the unique wildlife comes the funding.
Speaking of funding, whilst wild boar are making a comeback in some areas of the country, apparently including Surrey, as has happened across many parts of the country, the Surrey Wildlife Trust is actively looking to reintroduce beavers.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt this episode before we get into the topic of reintroductions and beavers. Let's take a look at what we spotted on and around our heathlands this month.
So we've had some mixed weather over the winter so far, and even though we've had lots of rain, we've also had some really icy days, and this day today is super icy, and there's lots, as you can see, sort of lots of frozen sort of heather and gorse, and super frosty today. So I don't know if you can see just here, but just in the tree here, I'm just over by Sheets Heath, and this here is an egret. just in the tree up here. So this is a wood ant's nest. Now, I've been walking this area for probably 10 years now, and in the spring and summer, this is a seething mass of big ants. This time of year, as you can see, the ants are deep underground hibernating, and it just looks like a small hill. But come spring, we'll come back, and this is a pretty impressive nest. Well, it's been a pretty messed up winter in some ways. Very cold at times and very wet at others. But this is honeysuckle, and it's just starting to sprout now, and actually you can see here all over this tree here, the honeysuckle is starting to, the leaves are starting to open, and obviously this is the food plant for the brimstone butterfly, which is the first butterfly we see in the spring usually. So always something that's sort of to look out for in those early spring days. So maybe spring's not that far away.
Okay, so back to beaver reintroductions. Now the horse has definitely bolted when it comes to beavers, because there's already over 50 enclosures in the UK. And that's not to mention any beavers that might have escaped, been released, or have been beaver bombed into the wild by Black Ops rewilders. Estimates say there are probably somewhere in the region of 2,500 beavers already living on our waterways. So beavers are amazing at flood mitigation and for cleaning our rivers and streams. Their action in the rivers of building dams and cutting down trees and slowing the water allows the water to spread out, and that lets the sediment settle and pollutants to be filtered out. The flip of this is, of course, that slowing the water and spreading out the water means that there is issues with agricultural land. But the flip of that is that it allows the water to percolate into the soil, which can potentially help us in drier summers. Now, obviously that also slows the water, which means that downstream there's not so much risk of flooding. And not only that, it creates an amazing habitat for wildlife.
Surrey Wildlife Trust are looking at the possibility of reintroducing beavers into the county at a location or locations yet unknown. They have a campaign that you can donate to with a target of £1 million to save Surrey's nature, which also includes reintroducing red deer, redback shrikes and the large marsh grasshopper. This is really exciting and can only help to bring an element of wildness back to our county.
So will we see a beaver on a Surrey heathland near you in the future? We can hope. But you can follow the campaign on the Surrey Wildlife Trust website and on their YouTube channel. And that's it for this month's Surrey on Common. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next month. Thanks for watching.